Hi guys, I wanted to spend some time and just provide you a little bit more of an explanation around this idea of the different types of maps because each type of map has a very specific purpose and it's important that we understand the differences. So the first type of map that we'll look at is the political map, and you can see the political maps show the lines that separate countries and states and territories. You can think of a political map actually as like a difference between governments. So the area that the United States of America government governs is distinguished by these lines. And these lines really tell you the difference between where the United States of America has authority and where it has no authority, where the government of Canada has authority, or where the government of Mexico has authority. So the lines don't just separate countries, they separate governments or areas of governance. And that's true within a country as well. So like this is within the country of India. And India, like the United States, is divided into different states. And we can see the boundaries between states. So each one of these states would have a state government because countries don't have just one big national government. They often have smaller governments within it. In other countries, they may be called a territory or a province. So you end up with provincial governments or territorial governments or state governments. Even within the territories or within the states, you can end up with even smaller governments. So that's true in the United States, where you end up with something called counties. You can see the state of Missouri right here, and if I click on the state of Missouri within the United States, these are all the counties within Missouri. Then, even inside of the counties, you would have a bunch of little towns or cities, and each town or city would have a government as well. So we can see that there's a lot of different sizes of governments. There's your town government or your city government, and then you can have a county government that's even bigger than your city government, and then you can have a state government, and then you can have a national government as well. And political maps help us see all the differences between those governments and where the lines are drawn between the different regions that those governments have authority and don't have authority. So that's the purpose of a political map. Let's go to the next kind. So the next kind of map is the physical map. And physical maps are real easy because they just let us see the physical attributes of an area. So things like rivers and lakes and coastlines and mountains and deserts and vegetated areas. And they're really good for understanding the physical geography of an area because they help describe for us where mountain ranges are. And we can kind of see by the green color where vegetated areas are that probably get more rainfall. And then we can see where the hot, arid areas are that don't get very much rainfall. So physical maps help describe the physical geography for us. They do a little bit more than that also though. So this is a physical map of the island of Kauai, which is one of the smaller islands in the Hawaii mountain range, or Hawaii island range. The islands are technically mountains that just come up from the ocean floor. Looking at this physical map, it's interesting because it actually gives us a lot more information than just a physical description. If you look really closely at these maps, you'll notice all these different ridges. And if you understand that this island was created by volcanoes, you start to understand that all of these mountain ranges are really lava flows. This is a giant lava flow coming down, and these are lava flows coming down here and down here. And so by looking at this physical map, you get more than just a physical description. You can start to see how this area was created. Here's a really interesting area here where you can actually see the crater of this volcano and where all the lava flows were coming down. So physical maps help provide a physical description of an area, but they can also help us describe how an area was geologically created in some cases. So that's another use for physical maps. The next type of map we're going to look at is the topographical map, and these maps are probably the most confusing types of maps to look at. And so topographical maps are really useful for hikers and campers. Anybody that goes out in the wilderness and needs to be able to look at a map and see where they are. But they take a lot of practice and training to be able to read them accurately. So topographical maps will use these lines called contour lines. And what these contour lines do is they show us levels of elevation. Elevation is how many feet or how many meters a place is higher than sea level. So if I go over here, this is a topographical map of an area in the Colorado Rockies. And this topographical map, you can see the levels of elevation on it. So you can see that this right here, this index line, is 9,600 feet above sea level. So it's pretty high above sea level. And then if we were to follow it and look at the next contour line or the next index line, so this one's 9,600 feet. Let's see if we can see what this index line is, if it ever gives us a reading. Yep, 9,400 feet. So we can see that the difference between this one, this is 9,400 feet, this one is 9,600 feet, and this one's 9,800 feet. So the difference between index lines is 200 feet in elevation. And then the contour lines in between it are probably 50 feet. So these contour lines help us see where the mountain ranges are and where the valleys are, and you can see that the rivers run through a lot of the valleys, and we can tell how steep an area is. So we can tell that like this area over here, it's not overly steep, but this area over here where you get a lot of contour lines together is extremely steep. So this is probably like a cliff ledge or a giant canyon going down and dropping off into the water. So really dramatic features over here. So that's a topographical map. The next type of map that we're going to look at are data and resource maps. So data and resource maps can give us all different types of information. They're just maps that are designed in order to give us different types of data. This map right here tells us annual precipitation. So what area has the most rainfall? And we go from 0 rainfall down here, which is like the Sahara, all the way up to super high rainfall up here, which would be these blue areas in these rainforest areas. Here's another interesting map. This is a map of births. What countries have the most births per population? So we can see that low birth rates, the United States and Canada have kind of low birth rates. And we can see really high birth rates, especially here in Africa. We can see that there are really high birth rates per 1,000 people in the population. If I go back to our original one, we have population density, so how many people live in a square kilometer. And you can see that areas like Canada aren't very dense at all. The United States has more people that live per square kilometer. And then you get over here to like India, in these regions, and you have super high population density, just like tons of people crammed in per square kilometer. So our next type of map is our road maps. So what are road maps? And road maps let us see areas of transportation. So you can see here, this lets us see city streets, but it's not just city streets. Transportation maps or road maps also allow us to see trains or subways or anything else, any other types of transportation. So like if you come down here, you see this in the river, you'll see these dotted lines. Those are actually ferries. So those are boats that will take people and sometimes cars from one place to the next. So even though this is a road map, it's not just a road map, it's a transportation map. And it's important that you understand that, that road maps aren't just for roads. They're also for trains or boats or ferries and that type of information as well. Our next one is our satellite map. So our satellite maps are very accurate and very detailed, and they may have aspects of some other map types. And our favorite satellite map is, of course, the Google map. So the Google map, the satellite view, you usually toggle between this is kind of a physical geography map, and then if you get closer, it starts to give you a road map. And then if we click on satellite, we get the satellite map, which is extremely detailed. You can see it's mixed in with a little bit of road information as well, but there's just so much information we can get from here. And if we zoom in on an area, let's zoom in on, let's see, where is Paris? Paris is up here somewhere. Let's go in on Paris and let's zoom in on Paris. And this just gets super detailed. I mean, you can see it's turning into a little bit of a road map now, but still you can make out buildings, and then we're going to keep on going. Really interesting area. All right, so we can see what a satellite map is for. It gives us super high definition, high information pictures of an area, and a lot of information that we can get from a satellite map. All right, folks, that's all I've got about maps. I hope those types of maps, going through that explanation, helps you understand those different types of maps and their different purposes a little bit more. Thank you, and have a great day.